So welcome everyone to the kickoff webinar conceived to the regions selected through the second open call of the CLIMAAX project. We will wait a few seconds to let the participants join in and see you in a while. Okay, so here we go again. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, according to the time zone. My name is Davide Michelin. I'm a science outreach manager at the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, the CMCC. Today I'm here as the communication officer of the CLIMAAX project. I will be moderating today's event that will explain the main elements of the climate risk assessment framework and the available workflows. The menu for today include an introduction to the CLIMAAX project by the coordinator Frederick Sperna-Wayland and the project manager Dana Stuparu, both from Delta RS. They will be followed by presentation from Erika Melendez from UPC, by Michaela Bachmann from IASA, and Christopher Polster from ECMWF. Together, they will illustrate the core of our project and the tools you will soon start using. Last but not least, the webinar will be closed by a colleague from CMCC, Fulvio Bidao, who will introduce you to the lively community of practice of CLIMAAX that you are encouraged to join. We are almost ready to start, but before doing it, I remind you a few housekeeping rules. Next. But first of all, we are recording the session, and the recording will be available in a few days on our channel, so the website and the YouTube channel. And then you are more than welcome to leave your question in the Q&A box that is in the bottom of the screen in the center. All your questions will be collected and answered during the last segment of the webinar, which is a Q&A session. So I think the time has come for start for real. And I give the floor to the project coordinator, Frederick Sperna-Wayland. Good morning, Frederick. It's a pleasure having you here.
Good morning, and good morning to you all. Yeah, as Davide said, I'm Frederick Sperna-Wayland, coordinator of the CLIMAAX project, and in my daily life working at the Dutch Research Institute Delta RS. And to me, it's quite exciting to have this kickoff. You are the second set of regions that will start their climate risk assessment projects. You're one of many that submitted an application. So I say, yeah, I could say you are the lucky ones who can start their endeavor with us. And we will all be here to support you as good as possible in the coming more than 20 months. And some of you actually may already have started their work, but I hope today can be of value to improve that. Next. Maybe to recall briefly, CLIMAAX is an Horizon Europe project, and it's funded by the EU Mission on Adaptation. The mission on adaptation has an ambition to support European regions in becoming climate resilient. And one specific goal is that by 2030, they should provide support to at least 150 regions. Now, CLIMAAX is one of their ways to do this. They are funding us, and we use that funding to fund you. And by now, there are 69 regions selected that are funded by this European funding to start their climate risk assessments. And we hope we can help you to improve your understanding on climate risks. Next. Maybe briefly to recall, we're here with a team already with a large number of partners, but within the project, there are even more. You can see them on the top right. All have been busy to prepare the tools, to prepare the framework, to help it testing and co-developing. And we will all be there to support you in the remainder of the project. Our goal was to bring together existing tools and services owned by the partners themselves, but also from things like the Climate Data Store. And we really hope that we are succeeding in opening those up and making them more applicable at the local level. So here we also connect to European policies. Michaela will tell more about how our framework connects to European developments. And for us, we have a side goal because we are also learning from you. And on the long term, we hope to develop a vision on how this could work towards a sustainable long-term climate service. Next.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Frederic, for introducing the general scope of the project. Hi, everybody. My name is Dana Stuparu. I am a climate adaptation advisor, also at Deltares, and the project manager of CLIMAAX. Good morning also from my side, and welcome. We are looking forward to get to know you and also learn about your climate risk assessment applications in the next 2 years. A few things about the project. The project started in January 2023 and it runs until December 2026. That means that we are now halfway through. And in the first 2 years of the project, we have developed a multi-hazard climate risk assessment handbook, which includes an analysis framework, but also an accompanying toolbox. We have developed the framework and the toolbox in close collaboration with 5 pilots in the project. They have tested it and gave us suggestions for improvements. And these pilots were from Žilina in Slovakia, Finland, Catalonia in Spain, Setúbal in Portugal, and Latvia. Further, the first regions have already started. That was on the 1st of October. 37 regions are now already 6 months in the project implementation, and they have just submitted their first deliverable end of March. I'm going to tell you a few words about the key elements of the project, and colleagues available in this meeting are going to give further explanations on this. CLIMAAX, the CLIMAAX handbook is an open access platform that you can access at handbook.climax.eu, and it contains a framework that is explaining the main analysis steps for climate risk assessments, a toolbox with workflows for different hazards, but also gives documentation that can help you understand the analysis steps, and giving also guiding questions that help to focus the analysis. I already mentioned also the community of practice. This is a way for us to facilitate interactions between the regions and the knowledge exchange, and it's also a platform where we often propose topical meetings and discussions. Next slide. A few words about the CLIMAAX framework. The CLIMAAX framework is a structured approach to develop climate risk assessments. It has been developed, followed a detailed review of available literature, of international assessments, ISO standards, but also with a close consultation with our pilots, regions, and sectors. And we have really aimed that the CLIMAAX framework offers practical guidance, and it's a platform for the project to assure the quality of the work performed by the regions, and also comparability for multi-risks. There are, as Frederic said, 69 regions doing work in the project with for different risks, but of course also very different local contexts. So for us, comparability between regions and between different hazards is very interesting and important. Not to forget that the reason we are doing climate risk assessments are for regions to be able to learn more about their vulnerabilities. Therefore, the framework also has a close link to disaster risk management and adaptation strategies. Next slide. Here, this is just a quick snapshot from the CLIMAAX framework as it is presented in the handbook, and you will be able to explore it on your own, but also Frederic and Christopher are going to tell a bit more about that. Next, CLIMAAX workflows, they are aimed to support the quantification of the risks in the risk analysis step of the framework. And in the project, we understand risk as a combination between hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. There are multiple workflows available, Python-based, and they are grouped under different hazards, as you can see here. And we cover river and coastal flooding, heavy rainfall, heat waves, droughts, fire, snow, and wind. The workflows aim to provide a good starting point for the risk assessments. However, fine-tuning to the local context is very important, and that is something that you're also going to be actively working on. But also as the project, we are looking forward to learning from you. And my last slide. Yes, we are a big team on the methodological side that are looking forward to accompany you in the next 2 years, and we have multiple ways in which we can interact with you. The service desk forum, we have weekly drop-in sessions. The handbook has multiple explanatory videos, so that offers hopefully a good support system for you. And we are also looking forward to meet you in June in Barcelona. These are the key elements of the project. One more time, welcome, and I give the floor to Erika and Gisela from UPC.
Good morning, everyone. I am Erika, and I'm presenting alongside Gisela. Well, she's next to me anyways, but you're only going to see me right now. We are from UPC, and are in the coordination team of the financial support for third parties. So I'm just going to quickly give an overview of what you can expect in terms of the administrative process of the FSTP, the evaluation, and the deliverables. And of course, if you have any questions on this, you can contact us on the FSTP email. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of this second open call. We have 37 projects from 19 countries, so it's quite a variety of projects that we're going to be seeing in the next few months. In the next slide, please. So yeah, in terms of your projects, this is the project planning and the timeline that all of you are quite familiar because you have presented your individual following plans for the signing of the subgrant agreement process. But it's good to give overview. So we have phase 1, which is the common methodology. So in this phase, which lasts 6 months, what we expect is just to see the common application of what Dana just mentioned, the CLIMAAX Handbook, which is the framework and workflows. We have phase 2, which is the regional and local multi-risk assessment. So in this phase, the idea is that you take it a step forward and make a local implementation of your analysis. And then finally, we have phase 3, which is how do we improve the risk management plans, or how do we improve our adaptation strategies based on the results of phase 1 and phase 2. As you can see here in the timeline, there is certain activities that you have to take into account. The first, as Dana mentioned, is the workshop in Barcelona. This is going to be from the 10th to the 11th of June of this year. In August, you are obliged to submit your first deliverable by the end of August. Then we have in the phase 2, the deliverable number 2. In December, deliverable number 3, and then a last final workshop in Brussels. Now, next slide. So the expected live meeting. So we have this workshop that is in Barcelona in June. We have sent the instructions on how to register. If someone from here, if there is a beneficiary that hasn't received this email, please contact us because it's really important and mandatory that not only you attend, but that you're registered. So please, if there's any problems or any challenges, please let us know. The idea in this live meeting is that we're going to get together the first and the second open call. We know that from the first open call, there's already results because they already submitted their first deliverable. In this case of the second open call, what we expect is that you're able to present yourself, your project, the challenges that you might have, or any questions that you have. You can also raise them here because the developers of the workflows and the handbook are going to be present. So it's a really good opportunity to communicate this and also interact with us and the first open call beneficiaries. And then we have the last workshop that this is going to be in Brussels in December 2026. But of course, it's quite ahead, so there's no many details on it. But what we expect is, of course, that the first and second open call are going to be finished by then. So the final results are the main idea here. The next slide, please. Yes, so the deliverables. As we know, the project is evaluated through deliverables. So in the phase 1, we have the first deliverable, which is the implementation of the common methodology. Phase 2, the refinement of this first phase, and the third one is the adaptation strategies. As you presented in your individual following plan, what we usually and we're going to review is your KPIs, your milestones, and that everything that you have set in your individual following plan that you're going to do is present in this deliverable. So next slide. And yes, regarding the submission of the deliverables in the next few weeks, in the beginning of May or so, we're going to be sending the instructions on how you're supposed to submit those deliverables. There is a platform that has been developed where everything that is officially the submission of the deliverables, KPIs, and milestones are supposed to be in it. But we're not going to overload you with information right now. We're going to send you this in a separate email in the next few weeks. Next slide, please. So regarding deliverable review, this is something that you already know because it's in the guide of applicants. So how do we revise your deliverables? So we have three main sections, which is deliverable quality that has a 40%, performance indicators of 50%, meaning your KPIs and your milestones, and deadline compliance. So in order for a deliverable to be approved, you need a score of 7 or higher. If there's something that doesn't match and there needs to be any revision or so on, we will send back the deliverable for you to improve it based on the comments of the reviews. Next slide, please. So the payments, as you already know, this is made on a lump sum scheme. So what does it mean? That we have to approve your deliverable and we do not need to see any other financial receipts in this case. However, we do recommend that you save everything because in case that there is an internal audit, you do have your payment improvements. But in any case, we as a coordination, we're not going to ask for it. So these are the payment schemes. The 30% is for the phase 1, 40% phase 2, and 15% on the phase 3. Because of the rules of Horizon Europe program, as it says in the slide, a deadline payment mechanism will be applied to the 15% of the financial amount. So this is expected to be paid at the end of the whole CLIMAAX project. So we estimate that this might be on November 27. Something that is really important is that we cannot give money before, like we cannot give any prepayment, refinancing. This has to be at the end of the deliverable. And that there's no reason or that we cannot give any extension. So the deliverables have to be submitted at the date that it's supposed to be, and we cannot grant any extensions because also, as you have seen, one of the criteria for evaluation is the deadline. So next slide, please. I think this is it. That's it. Yes. So I just want to reiterate that if you have any problems for registering to the workshop in Barcelona, please let us know. And if you have any questions regarding the deliverables or the payment scheme, you can write them in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. I will proceed with framing the climate risk assessment process. My name is Michaela Bachmann. I'm working at the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis based in Austria. And I will present you in a bit more detail the climate risk assessment framework. First of all, I would like to welcome you everybody because I'm very happy that so many of you are joining our wonderful project, and I'm very looking forward to you applying the framework and the workflows. Okay, and another thing before I start, I would everything that I will say you can find in the CLIMAAX handbook that I think Davide shared in the chat, so you can always go there and look things up. Okay, so all of us are here, I think, are aware that climate change has increasing effects on our society. So a proper climate risk assessment is the very first step of adapting to climate change. And we would like to empower you as regions to conducting your own climate risk assessment, which is a crucial part of also the regional adaptation support tool that is provided by the European Environment Agency that maybe some of you have come across. Next slide, please. Sorry. And this is just for you to understand where the CLIMAAX project is embedded and which steps are before or might follow. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, as you have already seen, the figure of our climate risk assessment framework, it comprises of 5 steps: the scoping, risk exploration, risk analysis, the key risk assessment, and the monitoring and evaluation part. It's built on a conceptual background, which forms around the principles, the technical choices, and participatory processes. And before I will go into the operational framework steps, I would like to draw your attention to exactly this conceptual background, which should not be neglected. So first, next slide, please. First, we have the principles which span over justice considerations, for example, social justice, equity, and inclusivity, forming just resilience, over methodological principles such as ensuring quality, rigor, and transparency, or adhering to a precautionary approach. Secondly, we have the technical choices that a region or community needs to take, which influence the your climate risk assessment outcome. We have climate change scenarios, climate models, or the choice of a time horizon, and finally also the integration of your own local data. And third, at the very heart of the CLIMAAX framework lie the participatory processes, learning, communication, and consultation with relevant stakeholders or experts or priority groups that you deem important is crucial to ensure your climate risk assessment includes the reality and perspective of your citizens and of your individual situation. Now I would like to go a bit in more detail on the 5 operational framework steps and their respective sub-steps. Next slide, please. Next slide again. So the scoping, a comprehensive climate risk assessment relies on an extensive scoping step as it sets the ground for the climate risk assessment and the quality of further steps. First, defining objectives is go back, please. Thanks. First, defining the objectives is important to understand the purpose and your expected outcomes, for example, also the temporal and geographical boundaries. And this can be done, for example, through a first brainstorming exercise. Then the context. It's important to understand that in the sense of where your climate risk assessment comes from and which space it will inform, for example, which governance and policy context it comes from, your system definition, or also temporal and spatial dimensions. Then the third sub-step, the participation and ownership, is important to gather bottom-up insights. And at this point, it's also important to choose your relevant stakeholders, experts, and representatives, also to screen your sectors or maybe disproportionately affected areas or groups in your region or community. And finally, the risk ownership can already be assigned in this step. Okay, next slide, please. Building on the insights from the scoping step, you can try to narrow down your hazard-related risks and decisions that you will need to take for the workflows in this risk exploration step. This should also again happen together with stakeholders, experts, and priority groups. It starts with screening risks, so the underlying hazards, exposures, and vulnerabilities, for example, in general or in specific sectors or geographic areas, to understand which risk background your community or region has. This can be supported by data spaces and hubs or the European map viewer that is also available in the CLIMAAX Handbook under this step. Then the second step, choosing your workflow can that you want to apply in the risk analysis step requires knowledge on the hazards and risks related in these previous sub-steps. We have floods, heavy rainfall, drought, heat waves, fires, snow, and wind available for current and future risk that you can choose from. And finally, you choose your scenarios. We have RCP or coupled RCP SSP scenarios available, and we also have a simple scenario guidance in the handbook, also more in-depth information in selecting scenarios that is linked in one deliverable that we had. Then third, the risk analysis step. Next slide, please. Thanks. So once a common ground has been found in this risk exploration step, risk is quantitatively being estimated through the workflow. So this is the application of the workflows. I will not go that much into detail regarding the workflows, but there is a simple structure to all of the workflows, preparing the application of them, choosing and accessing data, then estimating the hazard, and finally combining with exposure and vulnerability data. Next slide, please. This is the output of a risk workflow where we have different risk maps, for example, that will come out of that step. Next slide, please. Then this outcome remains to be contextualized in the key risk assessment step through the 3 sub-steps evaluating severity, urgency of the risk outcomes and the capacity of your region. For this step, participation is crucial. You should include experts, stakeholders, and again, representatives of vulnerable groups or disproportionately affected areas, also sectors or policymakers if you would like to include. And the goal is to identify the key risks that need to be addressed for further climate risk management. Next slide, please. There is a matrix, and with this matrix you can evaluate severity, urgency, and the capacity of your region. So first, the risk severity takes up on this output that you get from the risk analysis step, and it evaluates it in terms of serious negative impact or magnitude of the climate events that can harm your region's function. Then the risk urgency adds to the temporal dimension of risk. For example, is the risk changing sooner than expected? Is it a slow or sudden onset event, etc.? And then the capacity. The capacity is evaluated in terms of how your region is able to cope with and adapt with the respective climate risk, which also translates back to the severity of your risk. This can relate, for example, to financial, social, or government and policy-related capacity, for example, functioning heat plants that you may already have, or innovative water irrigation systems, or planned policy measures that are to be that may happen in the near future. And this step should also reflect again on the scoping phase. So did you include relevant stakeholders? How is your risk ownership regulated? How is the application of your principles and concepts? So this is a good step to reflect on these decisions that you took in the scoping phase. So finally, next slide, please. The monitoring and evaluation step is the final step of the climate risk assessment. It's both a departure and an ending point for information for a new cycle, and thus has also an important focus on learning. It can again include participatory processes, so you can again include relevant stakeholders in this step. And monitoring here has the focus on the process of monitoring climate risk, while the evaluation process puts emphasis on evaluating the climate risk assessment cycle that you did itself, so its robustness and its quality, again reflecting on the initially set goals or objectives in the scoping phase. We also, next slide please, we also have some indicators that might be relevant for this monitoring and evaluation step. So first, indicators for the monitoring of the climate risks. Next slide, please. And indicators for evaluating your climate risk assessment process. So efficacy, usefulness, and impact of your climate risk that you can make use of. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. we are coming back to this regional adaptation support tool that I showed you at the beginning. So this, once you did the climate risk assessment, the next step would be to identify options. Next slide. And this is also where CLIMAAX connects, as Dana already said. It connects to the disaster risk management and adaptation and the adaptation area. So you in the third phase, you will also apply that and use your identified key risks to understand how further adaptation options can be done. Next slide. Yeah, that was it. Thank you very much, and again, welcome. I'm very happy that you were joining our wonderful project.
All right, that's my cue to take over. Thank you, Michaela. Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Polster, and I am from the ECMWF. We are spearheading the support that we're providing in the CLIMAAX project to you. And I'd like to go over some things regarding the handbook, as well as the support functions that we're offering, so that you can get the most out of your experience in this project and the things that we offer. So yeah, you know this already, the handbook. It's a website. You can find it at handbook.climax.eu. The link's already in the chat. You can also scan that QR code. It's all open access, and for you, it really is the first stop for all the support that we provide. So we try to put our experience into this handbook to preserve it and make it available to anyone who's interested. On the website, you find all of the things, or many of the things already mentioned: the framework, the workflows. We have information on data set, information on the support. So this is one important thing that I will mention already right now. Pretty much everything that I'm about to say over the next slides is somewhere in the handbook. So please have a look at just all the points in the menu on the left on the website to see the information that is provided there. We have some technical documentation which will be relevant once you want to start running the workflows or are interested in some more information about the software that we're using, as well as we're providing links to external resources that we are not offering ourselves, but that still might be helpful for your climate risk assessment. And with that, we can go to the next slide. Which is just quickly again that the framework is described in the handbook. You can go through it step by step in the framework section. There's summary videos provided with each of the steps. You find the guiding questions mentioned earlier that will also be quite relevant for your deliverables in the handbook, and lots of information boxes that illustrate further points and link to other information throughout the handbook. Next slide. Accompanying the framework are the workflows. And these are there to facilitate the step 3, the risk analysis in the handbook. And you can see these 7 symbols on the right there. Wherever you see these in the handbook, these are our symbols for the different hazards. And they usually indicate some link to a workflow. Now, the handbook is the best place to view the workflows, but you can't edit them there, and I will get to how you can do that later. But first, each of the workflows has a specific structure that we've tried to standardize, which means that for every workflow, you're going to get an introduction that introduces you to the general methodology, which hazard, which exposure, which vulnerability data is considered, how is the risk constructed, and so on. This is then followed by a hazard assessment, where you're actually getting into the data and computing a hazard indicator. For example, if you're looking at flooding, this may be a map of how deep the water is going to be in the case of a flood that maybe returns every 20 years or so. And this information is then in a third step combined with exposure and vulnerability data in a risk assessment to give you the final risk outcome. Now, as I said, we have more information on the data sets being used also in the framework section, as well as some data sets that we provide ourselves that can help you get started quicker with the workflows. Some of the things we already have pre-computed, so you don't have to download as much data. And generally, our approach to these workflows is that we want to provide what we are calling a standardized flexibility. So when you get to the workflow and you get going, you will find that the workflows are already configured with an example. And this example should usually just work out of the box. You might need to download some data, but otherwise things are configured to give you already an initial output. And based on that example, you can then adapt this to your region, put in your own coordinates for the area that you're interested in, adapt some parameters to suit your local needs, and sort of build it from something that works already. So we're trying to have good standards to start with, but also lots of flexibility for you to really make this analysis your own. Next slide, please. And this is now the part of sort of where you get from just looking at the workflows in the handbook to actually running them yourselves. So the pipeline that we're following here is that the handbook is the best place to view the workflows, but if you actually want to interact with them, get them from our GitHub. And you will find that this is linked throughout the handbook. Every notebook that you see in the handbook will have a banner like the one that I'm showing here on the slide at the top, which provides you links to the corresponding GitHub repository that contains that workflow, and there you can download it. And then you load it up in a Jupyter environment to actually execute, modify the workflows, and essentially, yeah, run them and adapt them to your needs. Now, this step can be a bit difficult or seem complicated if you've not done it before, but we do provide setup instructions in the handbook. We also provide you access to a Jupyter hub where we have done all the setup already for you, and I will say more about that in a second. Now, this Python Jupyter stuff is, we do realize that it can be a technical challenge to work with that, and some of you might experience this as such, but I do want to mention here that it is the result of a trade-off. We know that this makes it slightly less accessible than, say, some web application where you can just click through, but it will allow you in the long run, and this will be especially relevant for your second phase, to really modify these workflows to load your own data, and this is only really possible if we have these technical possibilities that the Python and Jupyter environment gives us. Next slide, please. Yes, the handbook is still in development. So what's there is all usable. It's been reviewed, but we continue to develop the handbook, and you are now part of this process. We are also learning from you as you are working with the things that we offer. We are documenting changes to the handbook in our release notes that you can find on GitHub. They are also linked in the menu on the handbook. So if you're interested in the things that we update, please have a look at them. I think if you watch the GitHub repository, if you have an account, you will also get notified about new releases that we do. And some of the things that we do are we're fixing bugs in the notebook. So these still occur from time to time. We make some adjustments. Sometimes the data providers change something, so we need to adapt the notebook. So if you want to stay on top of that, release notes are the way to go. We add clarifications as we're seeing that maybe something in the workflow is what our users are struggling with. We might clarify something. There's new developments coming based on the feedback from you, based on your requirements. We already have worked with regions for about 6 months now, so there's a continuous stream of things that we're adding to the handbook. And we're trying to also take up developments that you might make yourself during this project. So please keep in touch with us about things that you're intending to do, because we're interested in adding things to the handbook and learning from you at that point. Next slide, please. So that's the handbook. As I said, this is sort of the first step of support for you. All the information that's in there. If you need other more information, we provide a range of other support. So we're trying to support you as best as possible through your journey, at the same time trying to learn from you, as I said. And again, for up-to-date information, please always consult the support section of the handbook. We keep this up to date with all the latest links and schedules and so on. The one important step for you to do is to let us know who is working in your team. And by us, I mean us in support. So reach out to us if you're adding new members to your team, if you have a subcontractor starting, so that we can keep them in the loop on the current developments, things like invitations to our drop-in sessions, which I will say more about in a second. We have a mailing list that we're sending information out, and we can only add people to those mailing lists if we get notified of these people. This will not happen without your action. So please remember to tell us who is working with you. And you will probably have to create an ECMWF account because pretty much all of the support functions that we offer, in particular the service desk as well as the Jupyter Hub, are only accessible through an ECMWF account. Although considering that you will need one to access data from the Copernicus Climate Data Store, which is being used extensively in the workflow, you will probably need one anyway. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, problems, access that you can't find the information for yourself, contact us on our service desk. We have a contact form that is part of the ECMWF support system, and that is also linked in the support section of the handbook, where you can reach out to us. Please don't contact our handbook authors directly, even though we do sometimes provide the emails as well in the handbook. If you're going through the service desk, you won't have to deal with out-of-office notifications because someone is on a conference or vacation. We process many requests every week. We have the experience. We will probably be able to give you a response faster than if you're contacting people directly. And if we can't, we will find the right person in the project for you to answer that question. So I think there's lots of advantages for you to go through the service desk, so please do that. And we will provide a first response to you within 3 working days if you're going through the service desk. Now, another option for you to get in touch with us is through the drop-in sessions. These happen every Monday, and I will send out an invitation to all the contacts that we currently have and support later today. And they already start next Monday. You can find the schedule in the service desk, on the service desk page in the handbook. And in these sessions, you get to ask questions to us directly. So we just meet for an hour and you can just drop in, ask a question, leave again, or listen to what other regions are asking. You can talk to the other regions. You can talk to us. It's sort of a more informal way to exchange information with us. Next slide, please. Yes, so finally, the Jupyter Hub. So this is an option for you to use computational infrastructure provided by us to run the workflow notebooks if you like to. So this is completely optional for use. If you already have a good system at your institution, feel free to run the workflows there. But if that's not the case, or you just like to run on our infrastructure, then feel free to use our Jupyter Hub. On there, you will find a pre-configured software environment, so all the Python packages you need is already there. You can access this through a web interface. So you see there the steps on the right is really you find the right website, which is of course linked in the handbook. You sign in with your ECMWF account, you start a session, you wait for a couple of seconds until that session is ready for you, and then you get put in immediately into a Jupyter interface, and you can start running your workflows there. We even download the workflows automatically for you. However, in order to access this Jupyter Hub, you do need to take some extra steps. Just having an ECMWF account is not enough. First of all, you need to set up two-factor authentication, which is a prerequisite for all access to computing infrastructure at ECMWF. But you also need to tell us that you want to use it, because we need to sort of accept you to the known list of users. So after you've opened your ECMWF account, just send us a quick service desk request. I'd like to have access to the CLIMAAX Jupyter Hub, please. Then we will be able to grant you that access, as long as we already know about you, because we're not giving that access out to just anybody. But again, all of this is described in more details on the Jupyter Hub pages in the handbook, where you can find more information on the specifications. So what do you find there in terms of resources and other parameters that are interesting for you if you are intending to use the system. Next slide, please. I think that's the end. Yes. Sorry, I was a bit late. Fulvio, your turn.
No worry. Thank you, Christopher. And hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to the new regions joining the CLIMAAX family. So I'll try to be brief and to provide an overview of the CLIMAAX community of practice. So this community, next please, is established as a space for collaboration and knowledge exchange between those practitioners that come from different regions and sectors and who share a common interest or work in climate risk assessment. So it basically brings together professionals through a series of events and activities that are designed to foster mutual learning, build and strengthening capacities, but also share knowledge and resources. The ultimate goal is to support the co-design and the enhancement of climate risk assessment practice at local and regional level. Next, please. So who makes up this community of practice first? So in a first phase of the project that was focused on developing the local and regional climate risk assessment framework and toolbox, this community was established primarily to engage the partners and external stakeholders in this co-development process. And this included pilot regions, EU institutions and bodies, but also sister mission adaptation projects and other relevant experts. Next, please. In the previous one. In the second, more mature phase of CLAIMAX, focus on supporting regions in implementing the context-specific climate risk assessment, the community has expanded. We count now more than 230 members, and these new members include funded regions like you, as well as those regions that are interested in applying the climate risk assessment toolbox and framework. But we are also fostering a stronger connection with research and knowledge networks, communities, other adaptation projects in Europe to build, to take stock of the knowledge and experience at the EU level. Next, please. So by engaging with the community of practice, basically you will have the opportunity to connect, share, and collaborate with the peers who are facing similar challenges or work, and you can exchange experiences, but also receive practical advice from fellow practitioners. And by contributing your knowledge, you can also help us in identifying the best practices and common bottlenecks that many regions are facing, so directly inform the ongoing activities and future directions in CLIMAAX. And whether it's through collaborative discussion or targeted working groups or events like webinars or workshops that are tailored to your interests, the community of practice is here to support your effort, but also to learn from you. Next, please. I will try just to reflect on the journey so far of the community of practice. I will try to be very quick. So we began with a survey of current practices on climate risk assessment for understanding the gaps, challenges, tools, and data that are currently used in Europe. And these insights were gathered to shape the development of the CLIMAAX framework, so to ensure that it responds to the context-specific needs and practical experiences on the ground. Next, please. This is just to say that the survey is still open as we continue to gather further input and best practices experiences to further refine the CLIMAAX Handbook. You can find the QR code here if you want to participate in the survey. Next, please. And to ensure the validity and applicability of this approach, we conducted also external consultation, gathered feedback on the intermediate draft from pilot regions and external experts to help us ensuring that the framework is standardized, but also clear, usable, and flexible to adapt to the diverse needs of different communities in Europe. Next, please. So here we have another survey we are actually running on investing in climate risk assessment and services, and this is really important to us to further continue the planning of the activities in the community of practices, identifying what are the main challenges for investments and financing in climate risk assessment. Next, please. So also in the past, in the effort to enhance the clarity and usability of the resources developed within CLIMAAX, we supported the organization of different types of webinars with pilot regions to discuss the practical application of the framework and toolbox and share the results. But also we have supported technical session on the CLIMAAX digital handbook and info days and webinars to assist applicants to the open calls for cascading funds. Next, please. And as many of you know, the expansion phase began around 5 months ago, bringing with it a new wave of activities. We have been planning thematic webinars and workshops to support on diverse aspects of the climate risk assessment and promote exchange of knowledge and resources. Basically, also guidance and inspiring good practices. And we are continuing surveys and consultation to keep refining and updating the digital handbook. And we are setting up a dedicated online space for peer-to-peer learning and capacity building that is tailored to the community's evolving needs, expectations, and priority. Because the selection content, but also the characteristics of these activities is tailored to the community's emerging expectation and to ensure that they are fit for continuous learning and professional development to equip all the members with knowledge, resources, and connections to improve their practice in the field of climate risk assessment and management. Next, please. So for this scope, we organized a kickoff meeting for the community of practice in November to expand the community and gather input on preferences, expectations, and needs. And these insights are guiding our activity planning with events that are designed to address both the technical and social dimensions of climate risk assessment and that are tailored to what matters most to the members. These events directly try to respond to inputs by highlighting key resources, best practices, and guidance to inspire your work in climate risk assessment and adaptation. Next, please. Just briefly recapping, so far we covered the practical application of the CLIMAAX toolbox in pilot regions, so providing you guidance on how the regions apply the toolbox and different workflows in the regions. Next. Another event was on how to meaningfully engage citizens and stakeholders in the various steps of climate risk assessment, management, and adaptation planning. Next, please. And how to communicate climate risk by translating complex risk data into more actionable knowledge to raise awareness, but also to inform decision making. So if you are interested in these topics, you can find all these webinars in our website. Next, please. And the community so far has a fixed schedule for these events. So we have sessions every fourth Thursday of the month at 10:30, except around Easter. And our next session, to which all of you is warmly invited, will focus on navigating uncertainty in future scenarios. And in this event, we'll try to explore how scenarios are generated, what bias and uncertainty mean, and how to choose the most suitable climate models, shared socioeconomic pathways, and representative concentration pathways. And to support this selection, this process, the CLIMAAX Toolbox team is developing a new workflow to help you visualize scenarios, but also assess the regional uncertainties and choose the most relevant option for your needs. And this session will be a co-design opportunity, so your input will shape this tool and your insight will be very relevant to us. So don't miss this event, also because we aim to gather your input and feedback for future activities in the community of practice. Next, please. And a final word on how to get involved in the community of practice. So feel free to reach out to us at cop@climax.eu for any information, suggestions, or requests you may have. We warmly encourage you to join our upcoming session and keep the conversation going. And you can also become part of the community of practice by joining our LinkedIn group. Next, please. I think we'll be sharing the link in the chat, and you are also very welcome to take part in our survey that were in the slides that you will have. And also your input will be very valuable in helping us plan future activities and improve our resources. Additionally, you can subscribe directly to the community of practice. Next, please. Through the CLIMAAX website, under the participate section, there is a community of practice session. There you will find the registration form to provide your email so you can receive updates, materials, and invitation to future events. And you will also find the recordings of past sessions in case you want to catch up. Many of your contact may already be included in our mailing list, but if you haven't received any message from us yet, please be sure to register and stay in the loop. So that said, I'll try to be very quick. Thank you for your attention and look forward to see you in the next sessions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fulvio. We are aware that today we are giving you a lot of information, but don't be scary because it's most of them is more complicated to explain than doing it, and moreover, we are here to support you in the process. Now, it's time for you to take the floor with your question. I see already, and someone raise up his hand. No. Let me check. No. Okay. So if there are any other question, maybe we can answer this one live. It's a question for Michaela. You can read it on the box.
Shall I read it? Read it out so everyone can hear it, and then I can try to answer. Okay. Do we complete all 4 steps: scoping, risk exploration, risk analysis, and key risk assessment for phases 1 and 2 of the project, or just for phase 1 and then a reduced version for stage 2? Please, Frederic or Dana, please correct me if I'm wrong, but for phase 1, you will have to apply the CLIMAAX framework and then and the CLIMAAX workflows as with the given data. And then for phase 2, you can go in a bit more detail. You should go in a bit more detail on the CLIMAAX framework, as you will also apply your or use your own local data. So your output will be more localized. So also the framework will be can be used in more detail. I hope that answered the question.
Someone else want to add something? Okay, so I just remind you that the recording will be available on our website in a few days, while the slide deck will be shared via email. So last but not least, I remember you to register to the workshop in Barcelona in June. I will share again the link, please do it. Eccolo qua. And of course, join our community of practice. If there are no other questions, okay. Very last question. For the first deliverable, are you expecting us to do also the risk assessment step or up to the risk analysis step? Who want to answer this question?
I can answer again, or Frederic, do you want? So in the first deliverable, the risk, also the risk assessment, and also the monitoring and evaluation can be done, but in a preliminary mode. So it's great that you think about it, that you try to connect it, that you try to understand, and you can already lay that out. But then in the second phase, when you have your more detailed risk outcomes, you can you should really apply it and do it in more detail.
Davide, you're muted.
Pardon. Now, our time for today is really up.
Can I answer Andreas's question real quick?
Sure.
Before we go. So the question is, are there guidelines on how to correlate hazards, vulnerability, and exposure to calculate a complete risk assessment? I assume that many organizations, projects might adopt different methods on this. Yeah, so these guidelines are essentially what the workflows are. So for a specific hazard, they take you through creating a hazard indicator, vulnerability and exposure indicators, and then combining these into a quantitative risk assessment. But of course, if you already have methods that are established in your organization, feel free to include these into your assessment. The framework is not specifically tied to these workflows that we offer. They're supporting the framework, but the framework is more general. And we're very happy to support you also to include risk assessments from other places, methodologies you're already using into that assessment. So that's very welcome from you to also incorporate that into your risk assessment.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Christopher. Thanks a lot to Frederic, Dana, Erika, Michaela, Fulvio. And yeah, and thank you of course to the audience to be here today. I think that this is it for today. Let's keep in touch and yeah, have a great weekend. Bye bye.